Hey everybody, hey, welcome out here for us today. Today I'm out here going out to the preserve of Elm Creek. It's a known neighborhood that's out here in Vintage Oaks. Some people out here at the Vintage Oaks likes it, some people that don't, because it's not really part of Vintage Oaks because it's its own separate entity. But with that, it has some of the most fantastic views of hill country homes with one of the top custom home builders out here with Grand Endeavor Homes. Now today with me, that's who I'm going to be walking out here with and showing you the neighborhood of the preserve. What are the future that's going out here at the preserve with the next phases that are coming up, and what's going on right now here in the community. So I'm out here with Tyler Reef. Say hi, Tyler.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey. So, all right, so Tyler, so as we're heading out there right now, just give us a brief overview of what is happening out here at the preserve.
We're pretty excited about the progress of the preserve. We're currently in our second year of phase one. The build out is going exactly as we planned. We've got 10 lots remaining in phase one. They're all acre to 2 acre lots. And the cadence that we've been at over the past 2 years has allowed us to plan for breaking ground on phase two here on December 1st. One of the things that we're most excited about as we roll into Q1 and Q2 of this year is that we will start pre-selling our lots in phase two. This is a perfect opportunity to get out to the preserve, reserve your lot, and pick anything from a heavily forested lot to something that has sweeping views that extend miles out.
That's awesome. Now, also, like when you get into phase two and everything else, because right now there's no amenities out there right now.
That's correct.
One of the things when people look at coming out of luxury, especially in a luxury community like this, are the amenities. What is expected to be coming out, and when are y'all trying to roll these out by?
Yeah, so something that we're excited about with phase two coming online is the build out of the main entrance to the preserve, which will represent the second entrance that we'll have to the community off of Vintage Oaks. And then secondly is the build out of the amenity center. We have a beautiful farmhouse from the previous owner of the property that is still standing in phase two. The views are sweeping, it sits up high, one of the highest points in the subdivision itself. And so we're gonna refurbish that specific space to have it be a full-blown workout facility. We have listened to folks who have moved into the community and taken their advice in terms of what they're looking for in amenities. And it's quite clear that having a workout facility is something that's important. We're also gonna have a beautiful 2 acre pond out there that we're gonna well feed. The idea is that the amenities are going to be subtle, thoughtful, and they're going to blend in with the natural beauty of the preserve. The last thing that we're going to have is walking trails, a couple of pickleball courts. We all know how popular that is, so those will be nice, especially because with 2 or 3 pickleball courts like we have planned right now, and only 200 households in the preserve at full build out, the level of exclusivity and the ability to enjoy these amenities is really going to be it's going to be a top-notch experience. So we're excited for those to come online. We can't wait for you to see them and come out and view them. Hopefully, as they start to we can start to go vertical with them in about 4 to 6 months' time.
That's awesome. Now, I can't wait to see the amenities coming out. I've been waiting for phase two to be kicking up. Guys, where we're going to start off today, we're going to go over to the parade home, which if you look at an earlier video, kind of give you a preview, but we're going to kind of walk through this so we can talk about the customization of what Grand Endeavors does as far as their homes, not even just out here in Preserve Elm Creek, but they also customize homes that if you own land or if you build up upon your own lots. And when I do a lot of my research and I've talked to a lot of other builders, they're able to meet more people's values than any other builder that I have seen. So it's not like every single custom home builder that what you see is like they're starting at about $1.1, $1.2 million just to build a home. Grand Endeavor is able to meet just that. If you want to upgrade budget, depending on where your land is, how much to build, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but they can easily build for under $1 million, depending on what you're looking for. But let's go tour the parade of homes, Tyler.
That sounds
good. And we'll start talking about your build and everything.
Great.
So as we walk up in here inside of the Grand Endeavor homes, when it comes to custom homes, what does a lot of your clientele, or what a lot of the buyers, what do they look for? What are they trying to accomplish?
It's really a multitude of things, right? So we have clients who are aging out of their larger family homes, right? And they no longer need all that space. And so the objective there is to create really thoughtful spaces, like with any home, right? Whether it's somebody who's aging into a larger home for their family or aging down into a smaller one. It's just really understanding the types of spaces that each client is going to spend time in, and then how they interact as a unit within those spaces. If we know that, we're able to design those spaces and how they work together in a thoughtful manner, and typically, right, we'll have really, really good outcomes when that happens.
When a lot of people come to you, do they already have an idea what they're looking for, or does most people really don't know until they start looking?
I would say most people have a general idea, right? They've put a lot of thought into the type of design they might want to see on the exterior, the type of flow or square footage they want to see in the house. I would say that they're often surprised, though, at how far we come from that standpoint to their final floor plan. And the reason for that is because we'll try out a lot of houses and rooms for size to make sure that the vision aligns with the functional component of what we're trying to achieve. So in walking through various homes and comparing one family room that's 23 by 23 and one that's 20 by 20, we get a really clear idea of how large we need a family room to be. And we do that for every single room in the house. And then we walk through various homes that have different design elements, different flows, whether it be homes that are, wider in the center portion and have a really large, wide open feel like this home behind me that we're about to walk in, or there's more segmented spaces that kind of interact with one another but aren't exactly wide open to one another. Or we have flanking components to the house, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But the idea of various portions of the house extending backward onto the lot, further back on the lot. There's all these different design elements that once you actually walk through a series of homes, the vision kind of changes a little bit, and we never really end up exactly where we started off.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and take us in, and let's go and get her started. Man, this is absolutely stunning when you look at this, when you walk in. You got the living room to the right, but really where most people love the setup is over to my left. It's my favorite place. I love the kitchen.
Thank you, Cody. Thank you.
So talk to us about, we're going to start here. Talk to us about the kitchen.
Yeah, so fully knowing that the kitchen is one of those spaces that most people spend most of their time. We place an incredible emphasis on kitchens almost always. And the use of these beautiful materials here, none of which truly steal the show, but when you put all of them together, they really tell a story of class, elegance, refinement, and high quality finish outs. And so the idea here is that we have this really understated inset cabinet. It's a very high quality custom cabinet, and it just is incredibly sleek, and really, the mutedness of the actual finish on the cabinet is kind of what makes it really impactful in the space. And it allows for, the cabinets to be understated, but so elegantly done that the brass fixtures and finish outs that we have all throughout this kitchen are allowed to come to life. Something else that's really nice about this kitchen that you don't see often is this handmade Moroccan zellage tile here. So we custom framed out this entire vent shroud here. And then we had handmade tiles placed on the entire backsplash and the vent shroud itself. The beauty of this is, in a day and age where perfection is always the pursuit, this is a tile that, you would see in old world homes back in Morocco 250 years ago. And so to think that we've brought this to these homes in the US where the imperfections, right, really tell the story, but also tell a story of, somebody who handcrafted this and now it's in your home. It's an absolutely beautiful story to tell, and it's an amazing finished component of the home. Another thing that's really unique to this specific home is the countertops itself. So we're so used to quartzites and quartzes and granites, right? And sure, those are all very beautiful, but what we've seen come back, over the last couple of years, and we actually drew inspiration from the Park City Parade of Homes last year, was this porcelain countertop. So porcelain is just this beautiful this beautiful material, and it's almost indestructible. And that's what makes it really useful from a functional perspective in a kitchen space. You can cut on this countertop with a serrated knife and not damage it. It's practically waterproof. And all at the same time, it offers this amazing elegance that complements all the other things that are going on in this kitchen space.
So when you look at the evolution of kitchens, of course, I mean, you go back to the 90s, Corian was a thing, and then granite popped in. Granite came in because it was hard, but it still has its vulnerabilities, especially the heat. Now we're seeing a lot of quartz. Where does porcelain really rate with all that?
Well, it's an extremely high quality material. It's only a few millimeters thick, believe it or not. And it's a more expensive material, and that has a lot to do with its durability. When you think about things like granite, quartz, quartzite, these are all things that you need to seal over time and kind of reseal as the years go. So there's a little bit more of a maintenance factor with those items. A lot of times those particular items have a sheen to them as well. And so the idea that these kind of matted, more muted features and textures and tones are coming back into design, now, that really lends itself to the use of a material like porcelain.
Nice. Okay, so a lot of people are going to ask, where's the fridge?
That's what we want you to ask. That means that we did it well. So the beautiful use of these high-end monogram appliances, and having a panel-ready refrigerator where you can conceal your Smoothie King drink.
Yeah, I was trying to hide that. I kind of failed at that.
That's awesome. That's exactly what we're going for here. Is you shouldn't know that is a refrigerator. It should look like built-in cabinetry.
Right. Let's talk about one other space real quick. It's kind of hidden back here. You got a butler's pantry. That, of course, I mean, as we've worked and we've talked, this is actually one of my favorite features of a home. I think it's coming back because I'm even seeing some starter homes with butler's pantry. Because I mean, like specifically, KB Homes has a home plan. Yeah, they do. I sold one recently. As one of my sellers. It was the only home I've ever seen at that price range with butler's pantry. It was awesome.
Well, I think that's genius of KB Homes to do. I mean, it's something that we're seeing in these high-end homes that we build. And the reason for that is because everybody spends time for the most part in their kitchen. Mm-hmm. And to have a place that's tucked away, whether it's for the holidays, whether you're entertaining with just a few folks, or you're at home alone, you're at home, with your significant other, and you guys just want to, pop a bottle of wine open. It gives you a space that's concealed, tucked away, that adds a functional component to the house. And that's really, that's really the beauty of it. You can certainly continue to ratchet up and not just have it at a functional component, but, add and accessorize various items, built-in cabinetry, under-counter refrigerators and wine fridges and cabinets and things like that. That add a beauty, that add an elegance to the space as well.
Awesome. Well, sweet. So let's go on to where we all like to sleep, into the master suite.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, if you notice, like when you're walking through this house, is like if you notice when you walk in, y'all do like a kind of a winged off section of the house. Are those are definitely getting more popular again. I mean, they've always been popular, but I'm starting to see even in the mid-grade homes, like when you look at like in other communities like Veraminde or like Mayfair's, like a lot of the builders out there are doing their own version of a winged off home as good as they could with a lot size. But what a lot of people are starting to notice, and when I ran with some of my luxury homes, is they like to be able to walk in and they like to see it straight out of the back, and they like to go one direction or the other depending on which living space. Is that what you commonly see now?
Yeah, so the idea of having various wings to a home allows for a couple of things. The first is intricacy in the floor plan, right? So instead of having a home that is a large rectangle, you've now taken the home and separated it into essentially 3 different rectangles: the main portion of the house and then the 2 wings that could extend on either side. The nice thing about that type of design is it allows for segmentation and the ability to really customize the floor plan in a way that allows for different spaces and different functionality at different times. What I mean by that is if you're walking through this particular home, the master suite is on the left wing of the house. Everything else in the home in terms of secondary bedrooms is on the right wing of the house. Now, the nice thing about having wings is they're easily extendable. So you can take a wing and extend it outward. Mm-hmm. You can take it and extend it to be a little bit wider as well. And so as we're working with clients on their particular lots and we're looking at different things from a privacy perspective, for instance, you may have a neighbor that you want to block out so that, as you're out in your swimming pool in your backyard or enjoying your back patio, you're not worried about the neighbor having direct sight lines to the house. Extending a wing on that side of the house provides that added level of privacy that folks are looking for.
That's nice. Now let's talk about the master bedroom and the thoughts that are come on here. Now, let me get here where people can see. It's like these, you can see it's going to be vaulted ceilings. Now, again, like I noticed you didn't go dark wood up here. You didn't go light wood, but you kind of got that median, like what I call like an alder looking color. That's like the cabinets that is in one of my homes that I'm selling right now that seems to be ageless because like the wall, like when walnut was popular, that real light wood, that went out in a hurry. Then everybody went like soaking on the dark cherry. Is that kind of what inspired just kind of keeping in the medium ground?
So it's really interesting that you just mentioned walnut because walnut is swinging back in.
Really?
Yes. So, white oak, which is what you see here on the ceiling treatment, and you also see that here on the flooring, it's such a popular wood and it's a timeless wood because it has such a uniform pattern to it that it takes on any type of stain beautifully. And, it showcases the variation of the wood in a way that is uniform, has some complexity to it, but each board is going to be close enough where in totality, when you place a bunch of white oak boards next to one another, they blend seamlessly together. In lower grade woods, you start to see a variation that doesn't allow for that. And so that's why white oak is so popular, and it'll continue to be popular probably forever because of that. You can stain it any color that you'd like. This type of stain that you see here, the lighter colored stain, is popular right now. And it's actually something, as you see, almost the yellowish hue coming back into play. That's something that we saw in the 1980s, right? And so just a little bit of a hue that we're starting to see come back into play on the actual color side. It's really interesting how these things kind of come back, 30 or 40 years later. But what we're seeing now is a switch back to those darker hues of wood, those darker stains.
Are you starting to see the darker stains come back? So
yes.
Everything's come back full circle then.
Absolutely. So the walnut is coming back into play. It's something that's gaining popularity. And then adding a darker stain to the walnut, it just gives that warmth back to the space. So where we've seen big, open, and airy, and believe me, that's still something that is very much a draw these days. You're also starting to see the open but segmented idea come back, and then you're starting to see these warmer tones in terms of those darker walnuts, even a darker stained white oak come back to add that warmth. I call it the huggability factor back into these spaces.
That's so interesting you say that because I had not seen that. I didn't know that. Yep. But since you're the one designing so many homes, you know what the consumers are going for and what they're wanting. I sell the existing home, so knowing that really helps out as far as it gives the buyers and just kind of like stay up with the times. Because like when you're trying to build your own house, it's not necessarily that you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but yet you're trying to keep up with what's popular today because at the end of the day, you don't know how long you're going to be in a house. So you're going to want it to sell for tomorrow too as well. So knowing what is coming, just even if it's barely trickling in, that can get you lifelong. And that's actually what's going on with my house in Garden Ridge is like the way that the owner built it and the colors that they chose it. It's a lifelong in colors, even though it's 17 years old.
100%. I mean, Cody, it's a you're spot on with the way that you're dissecting sort of how you apply these different materials to stay ahead of the curve. So when we're helping, our customers design their homes, the idea is that most every one of our customers is going to have an idea or a Pinterest board or an Instagram board where they have all these beautiful homes saved and these ideas, different types of wood, different styling, ceiling treatments, and things like that. Our job is to help guide our clients, right, to be able to pull that look off and do it within budget. And so, the first component is how do we pull it off and execute it on it so that it matches the vision of the client and what they're showing us, and things that they would like to come through in the design and the finish out of the home. And then the second piece is guiding our clients through having different options and different types of woods that we can use, different types of design elements so that we can still achieve the look without breaking the bank.
Sweet. All right, so continue walking into the master bathroom back here. This is one of my favorite parts of the house.
It is pretty stunning.
It is stunning. And
Yeah.
it's like, if y'all can't see because of just the way the light's coming in, is like what you're looking at is you got gold fixtures. Now explain the gold fixtures, because that's something new, but it looks absolutely amazing.
So when you have like this kind of gorgeous fixture that is, really timeless, you're not going to have to replace these fixtures. And as we all know, fixtures can be costly. So it's one of those things where when you put such a high quality sort of, brushed brass fixture in there that has that gold coloring to it, it's not so abrasive and so gold that you say to yourself, wow, that really overtook the room. But it more so complements the tone and the color that we're seeing in the cabinets, that we're seeing on the edging of our frame mirrors. And then as we move over to the porcelain encased shower enclosure here, you're seeing it pull some of those golds and those metals out of the actual porcelain slab itself. So the idea is that when you're designing a space, you want to have that entire space become cohesive, and you want to pull from different features so that the look really finishes off without anything stealing the show.
Okay, so question with that then. So is the industrial look, the industrial iron, are you starting to, now we kind of got into the design over there, is it industrial iron, is it fading out, or is it still holding, or why the choices of the gold versus, you know where I'm going with the question, so. Yeah,
I think that if there's two words that I could put together to describe it, it would be refined elegance.
Okay.
We see the gold tone and hue color, colors on the color spectrum, it's timeless throughout history, right? Whether we go back to a palace that was designed 400 years ago to something that we're doing today, if done in the right way, to not steal the show, but instead complement the other materials you're using around it. This could have been done in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and today. And so you can still see we're doing it today in a way where when you walk into the room, you don't just see these gold colored fixtures. You see the entire space as one, and then you're able to pick apart the individual pieces and really appreciate them. As opposed to walking in a room and seeing a shower head that just sticks out like a sore thumb because it doesn't complement the features and everything that's around it. So that's kind of the idea about how we think about design and how we guide our clients in designing a particular space.
Nice. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about too, as well, is I had this question come up to us the other day. As we move over in the closet, it was just absolutely stunning. So there has been an upkeep, and I understand, I kind of understand it, but closets right there in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So thoughts on that?
So this has been something that over the past couple of years has become very popular. And so when I first meet with clients, I want to understand how they live their lives in a space together. And first and foremost, all the pretty things in a house, those are easy to execute on. What's more difficult to execute on is to get to know your client, the folks that are living in the space, understand how they interact together as a family unit, and then design the space for the way they interact in the home. So this is a perfect example of, one of the ways that we've been able to incorporate lifestyle into the actual floor plan design. So when you think about, two individuals living in a house, usually they wake up at different times, they have different routines, and everything kind of filters through the master bedroom. So somebody wakes up early, they go into their master shower, they get ready, they come in the closet, they finish out their routine, and then they're back through the master bedroom to get out to the main house. Well, if somebody's sleeping or trying to enjoy their sleep, maybe they're a light sleeper, for instance, that doesn't necessarily work. So by incorporating this wraparound design where you're able to exit the master bedroom, take a shower, get ready for the day, throw your clothes on, and then wrap around this way.
We're going to come back to this, by the way.
Absolutely. How could we not? So wrap around this way through the utility room and then back out to the main house through the mudroom. We've gained a functional component to the house that allows for just ease of use, right?
So this is not like throwing spaghetti in the wall. There's actually thought with every space that you're putting in.
And really, we should never be throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? If it's one of those things where, if we're doing our job correctly, we know our customers so well as we're going through the design of the house that it is designed specifically for their lifestyle. Yeah. To me, that's customization. A lot of folks will say, customization is, I get to choose all these beautiful tiles and I get to choose, complement that with a wallpaper and put those things together. That to me, those are the finishing touches. But the functional component to how you finish a house, the way that you design it, the width of doorways, the use of pocket doors and swing doors so that, everything is working together instead of, things kind of clashing in certain spaces or creating choke points in certain places in the house. That's the real gold. That's the real magic in customization. So that's what we try to showcase and what we try to do in all of our homes. This particular feature happens to be, we're probably doing this in about 50% of our houses these days.
No, that's amazing. One thing, since we're in this room, but I want to get back to this door here in a second. Wallpaper.
Yes.
The 70s coming back.
Isn't it gorgeous though?
I am not a wallpaper fan. I still envision the ducks and the amount of ducks that came off of wallpaper that's peeling off of my sister's house.
That's fair. If you have hung wallpaper or taken it off walls, you're probably not a big fan of wallpaper. But I have to ask, did we convert you with the wallpaper that you're seeing in here?
It flows nicely, especially when you look into the laundry room. Because like my laundry room, if you were to go to my laundry room in my house, I painted that inspired really when we lived in Hawaii. So it's like that turquoise blue, that ocean blue. So it really brightens up the space. And that's exactly what this wallpaper does.
Yeah.
It brightens up the whole room.
So to me, it adds a complexity to the room. And I don't know if there's a term for this necessarily, but it's thought-provoking, right? So when you do something like this, when you do a wallpaper, you want to make sure that it's not trying too hard, right? Mm-hmm. So when you have a bunch of different materials that you're putting together, you want to make sure that you don't look at one versus the other and go, you have 2 or 3 competing features that are trying to be the star of the show, if that makes sense.
It's a complementary.
It's complementary, it's subtle, it's well done, and it just works, right? So wallpaper is definitely back in a big way. It adds a texture and a tonality that creates a warmth to the space. Again, going back to these warmer wood tones, these more defined spaces, not closed in, but more defined spaces, and then using color, texture, and pattern to really finish off a space and give it a certain feel. That's exactly what we did here in the utility room.
Nice. Now let's back up over here. This is one thing, because I like to play hide and go seek still. Yeah. So what we got going on behind the bookcase? Is this a safe room, gun safe type of deal?
Well, this is everybody's most favorite feature, right, in a house these days. It's either a hidden bookcase like this, right, where you can hide a safe behind it. We happen to right now, and I can show you what it's like when it's closed. It's funny.
You would really have to pay attention to the detail to know that that's a door right there.
Yeah, it's so funny because I know it's there, so I look for it every time. But when I'm walking with folks who haven't walked the home before, nobody knows.
One thing about it, I've walked this home a numerous number of times. I've never noticed that.
Oh, really? Is that right?
Yeah, that's why it piqued my interest.
Well, it's a pretty cool feature. We just wanted to do something that, again, was subtle, but it was a really cool feature, especially on a house like this.
So you got a complete security system hidden there.
Yes. And if you walk in, the light will actually turn on. So what's cool about this space is, when you think about safe rooms, those are things that are important to folks today. Having your security systems back here, all of your telecom back here, even doing some sort of gun safe back here is a really good idea. We're actually installing a few vault doors for folks in the next few builds that we're putting together. So, you can do a vault door that sits behind a bookshelf. So you have an added layer of protection if privacy and security is what you're looking for. That's exactly what this room does. It's also kind of a cool place if we want to just tone it down in terms of functionality, where the kids can play hide and go seek, like you said, or you, Cody.
Look, everything fits me.
Yeah.
So. All right, so let's walk in. Let's go. Let's walk around. Go through, wrap around in the mud room. Let's go over to the living room. Let's talk about the inspiration of the living room.
You better be careful with that comment. I might call it a Cody size walk-in closet.
Hey, look, my kids make fun of me. It's my vertical challenges, if that's a word.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not that tall either. So as you move into this main living space, right, I talked a lot about sort of closed in spaces and segmented spaces making their way back into theme. Well, what you see here is exactly the opposite. So you might think to yourself, Tyler, what the heck are you talking about? Well, the idea of these big open entertaining spaces, I would say is really, fits the eye of about 50% of our clientele right now. Mm-hmm. And this is a trend that started, probably a little bit over 10 years ago, where we just saw these huge expansive spaces. And so, why do we do it, right? The typical client that will choose a space like this is somebody who really wants the family to be able to be in the same room together most of the time. So a focus on family time, quality time together, utilizing ceiling treatments, light fixtures, glass doors and windows and panels to really identify the space as a unique space within a space is, what we do here well. And so through the use of our front door unit, the chandelier is perfectly aligned, the cove ceiling with our rope light halo, and then off the back here, this perfectly symmetrical slider, it tells a story. And that story is this is the dining room. This is a thoughtfully curated space where everything comes together. And even though we're in a larger rectangular great room, mm-hmm. we know that this is a portion of that of that larger living area that is distinct on its own.
So you make that point and everything else, because there are a couple of builders that are, they're not custom builders that do this really well. Chesmar does a very good job of the open great room, and Ashton Woods does a very good job of the open great room or two that just come to mind.
Yep.
Because they like to do the expansive ceilings, but y'all take the ceilings and the vaulted ceilings up another level, where you got the hue of the lights up the top to really highlight the space, and the brick going all the way up the wall. It's absolutely stunning the way that y'all create this. But as I said, one of the things I'm finding a lot of buyers in the customization, again, you're looking from the front door to the back door. Where are you looking about maybe 25 feet?
Yeah, so you're 22 plus 7, so yeah, right. Just under 30 feet of width from the front doors to the back doors.
So
here.
It's not like you're if you go in some of the not even some of the upgrade homes, it's like you open that front door and you're 45, 50 feet all the way to that back door. And some people like to be coming in. It brings the daylight inside, yes. And it gives, as we talked about, now your home is sectioned off on one side, on your left side and your right side.
Now, Cody, I want to bring us back to where we were 20 minutes ago, which was the level of customization, right? Mm-hmm. And where this comes into play for each particular client. I have some clients that'll walk into this front door and they say to me, Tyler, I just don't love how when I first walk in, everything is right in front of me, mm-hmm. right? So when we talk about choosing the right floor plan to start with, this is a prime example. So in certain situations, and we've done this with a few clients, that we are customizing their own particular floor plan off of this floor plan, we've taken this foyer here and extended it out another 5 to 8 feet forward. Mm-hmm. And what that allows us to do is create hallway spaces that come off the foyer.
So where you have the office space and if you want an office space, a formal dining or whatever you may want.
There's a home we're doing now where we've actually shrunken down this space here in the dining room by 5 feet to create an extra large living area. And then we have off this way, we've taken that dining space and reallocated it to where the pantry is in this current home. And that way you still have light coming from the back of the home off the sink area there. And you have big, large windows coming off the front of the home in the dining room. And what that's doing is it's ensuring that we have natural light filtering through the home off the front, the back. And that really makes a huge difference, because every home sits differently on a lot. Every home sits differently in relation to the sun orientation and how it's rising and setting. And so we want to be thoughtful about all these elements, because it's going to affect the look and feel when you're inside the space.
You say orientation of the sun and everything else. That's one thing I actually like when I'm taking buyers out to look at houses, is sometimes they'll find the perfect house or the house that they really, really love, but in the evening, that the master suite is facing the west,
Yes.
which is the worst place because nobody likes to go to bed hot. But I've been in some other homes where the home may be facing west or southwest, but the way that they angled the master suite off is not getting the direct sunlight in.
Correct.
And it's because of whether it's like either trees or whatever it may be, or they just got to completely angle it off.
Yeah, that's a great point you make. And this also brings us back to about 10 minutes ago, we were talking about flanks, right? So the ability to use a flank to shield yourself from sun exposure is one of the nice things that the flank provides, right?
Awesome.
So, extending a flank in one direction to protect the rest of the home from sun, maybe it's the back patio, maybe it's the family room. If you extend that flank far enough out, the amount of sun exposure that you're able to control all of a sudden diminishes, or the amount you're able to control, expands, but the amount of sun exposure diminishes.
It's awesome. So let's continue walking forward now. Office space.
Yes.
Now, so you'll see some office spaces that will be opened up from a foyer, and you got this one kind of closed off into the living room.
Yeah.
Which is most popular, or is really just depending on what you want?
100%. And so when I think office to myself, I think rich tones, rich colors, rich materials. And that's exactly what we did here. So we did floor to ceiling, built-in cabinetry, lower cabinets so you can conceal the things that you want to conceal. And then we have floor to ceiling bookcases, again, tying back into the picture, these beautiful, understated, classy brass fixtures. And it really ties it all in together. Now, what's interesting about this space is we just walked off of the great room, which was light and bright, open and airy. And we walked into this space, and you can't fully appreciate it until you're standing here in person. But the huggability factor in this room is a 10 out of 10.
I think one thing is that especially when you're looking at an office, because one of the things I struggle with my office, it opens up to the rest of the house. So it stays hard to focus, and it's very bright on the inside. I think the way that you have this one set up, it just screams. So if I could speak English here, it screams focus.
Yes.
Which is today is the hardest thing to do when you're working, period.
It sure is. And I think it's really, like, you nailed it on the head, right? Is we've got all these everything's competing for our attention. And the use of color, these deep, dark tones that we saw kind of come into the design space or popularity in terms of design 4, 5, 6 years ago. And now we're full blown into these deeper colors. It's a beautiful element, and it does allow you to almost focus your attention on whatever's going on in this room instead of the rest of the world outside of these doors.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so out of the office, let's go back here to the U shape, which is kind of one of these are slowly starting to get popular with some of the builders coming back in the guest bedroom section.
Okay.
Well, you have something here?
I mean, the only thing I was going to say is, and it's, it's hard to tell from here, but if you were to pan out to the outdoor fireplace here, and then you've got this gorgeous fireplace around here, and we extend this, this beautiful Granbury stone with this smear all the way to the ceiling, you're creating that cohesiveness between the inside and the exterior of the home. And this is the same stone that we're using on the sides of the foyer when you come in the house and the exterior of the house. And so that sort of continuity of material from the inside to the outside is really important in allowing a project to really come full circle from a design perspective. And it also sets the tone in terms of when you have a large space like this that is so expansive, the use of these natural materials, whether it be stone, which is kind of a wink and a nod to Texas Hill Country, right? And then these beautiful wood tones. What you're doing is you're pulling in sort of the nature aspect of what surrounds this home indoors. And that's really something that we focused on this particular home.
That's absolutely amazing. And that's the tones. So the tones do speak, and everybody has their own different, because you got some people that they like darker tones and everything else, but most people out here in Hill Country, and correct me if I'm wrong, they like the house to brighten up, where they like to have the primary, the lighter tones, and to either get mixed in with something darker to contrast it heavily, whether it be like I say, the industrial farmhouse look is very, very popular. But I have seen some homes that are starting to pop up that are very, very dark on the inside, but those really only speak out to very few that are in this area more, isn't it?
I think you're spot on. I mean, we just came from a study or a library area that was very dark, right? And being able to do that in certain spaces is thoughtful. But for the most part, you're going to want to add your pops of color in, through your furniture, right? And you can see we've done that in this house. And, even still, right? It's the idea that you don't see any pink furniture here, right? And
No,
that's okay.
It's very neutral.
That's okay if you did.
I always tell my sellers, like, hey, we've got to take extreme colors out because we don't want to distract from what majority of people are looking for.
Exactly. The other component too is when we're talking about furniture, and we work with the team over at STH Interiors. They're wonderful. They're New Braunfels based. That's my little plug for them. I love Tanya and her team. But they came into this house with us, and the first thing they tried to do was understand our vision for the house through the materials that we were using. And remember, at that time when you're ordering furniture, when we have clients do this, right, they start ordering their furniture before the house is finished out, before flooring's in and things like that. Is we want to make sure that we sit down with our client, we have a lookbook of each individual room, all of the materials in each individual room put together, and then we sit down with whether it's STH or their interior designer who's picking out all the furnishings, and we ensure that the interior designer understands the vision of the client, that they understand what we're putting in the home from a material perspective, so they can complement that with their furniture choices, not only the size but the style and the color. And so that's what you see here, right? Is everything it isn't understated, it isn't overstated, it's perfectly designed for the space to complement what we've done from a design perspective.
Now, one thing we didn't talk about, and I just kind of I noticed this on a lot of houses and everything else, but the drywall, and I'm going to zoom in here, is like you got different levels of drywall. Explain the texture pattern on the texture pattern on this.
Yeah, so this is a level 4 hand trowel, and depending on the drywall installer, there's going to be different levels of this hand trowel in terms of how thick the actual hand trowel is laid on, how much texture is applied, if there's any undertones that pop through. So if you see, like a knockdown finish pop through the hand trowel, these are all different levels and variations of texture. And so this isn't a one-size-fits-all model. And I think that's the important thing to take away is if you're working on building a custom home, we want to see exact, precise examples of the texture, the wall texture that you're looking to have installed in your home. Because within a hand trowel, there might be 4 or 5 different variations of that hand trowel that we can apply to a house. And so again, the idea is this is about as thin of a hand trowel that you can possibly get. So it kind of creates a modern aesthetic. It's very sleek, it's beautiful, it's elegant. There's large sweeping hand finishes on it. The next level of refinement above and beyond this would be a level 5 flat wall. And those are things that we see in really high-end homes here down south. We see them in most homes in some of the metro areas up, Northeast, Chicago, etc.
That's what one of my buyers on his remodel at his home he's working on right now. They're doing a level 5.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, well, the thing about it takes such preciseness that his drywaller, it's really one of the drywallers, they made a pretty good mistake, and you can see the issues with it. So they had to come back and redo it to finish it up because it's like a very artistic the way they're doing this.
It truly is, and it starts with your framer, right? So
that's what he wasn't happy with the framer, because he could see the imperfections in the drywall itself.
Exactly.
Not necessarily that the texture was off.
So there's 2 things, right? Is if a house is, well, there's no such thing as perfect, right? But if a house is, if the framing is executed
build a perfect home.
I would love to say that we did, but that would be misleading. The idea is that building a home is the pursuit of perfection, right? And if you shoot for perfection, you're going to get pretty darn close to it. But it starts with framing, right? So you frame a house well, and then you drywall a house well, you tape and float it well, and that allows you to put a level 5 finish on it, and it looks exactly the way it's supposed to look. A good drywaller can do a really nice job in taping and floating to correct any sort of minute details that weren't perfectly squared off in framing. But again, to your point, the level of execution, the amount of drywallers who have the ability and skill set to be able to pull this off it's few and far between here in Texas Hill Country. So you want to find a builder that partners with really high quality trades, and you can see that by walking through the homes.
Yeah. We'll continue on walking through, and this is starting to get popular too. If people haven't noticed what I said, like you got the living room to the left, and then as we go forward, you're gonna have a couple other bedrooms to the right, and it's connected by Jack and Jill, if I'm not mistaken. We'll walk through
exactly.
there. But if you look up here forward to the left, there's another opening, so it's kind of what I call a U shape, which again, it keeps the additional living spaces separated from the living room. As we walk through the bedroom, go ahead and talk us through that.
Yeah, so before we walk in the bedrooms, I just wanted to mention one quick thing, which is just hallway width, right? So a lot of times, especially we've been talking about wings today, that's been a common theme. If you do extend your wing further out, let's say that we took this wing, right, and we wanted to create that flank going further back beyond this linen closet here, this hallway becomes a little bit longer, right? And so we did a 5 foot width here on the hallway, as opposed to a traditional sort of, a lot of times they'll do a 4 foot 4 inch width. What this allows us to do is it makes these long corridors feel much less closed in. So just imagine, right? You're walking from this huge space in the great room, and then all of a sudden you come into this long corridor that just feels really narrow, right? That's something...
You feel like you're closed in, don't you?
You feel like you're closed in, and it feels like something was just missed, right? So thinking about transitions from one space to the other, thinking about scale, and ensuring that, again, you're creating that cohesive, thoughtful approach to design. This is a prime example. So 5 foot hallway allows you to have increased accessibility for mobility issues, ADA, et cetera, things like that. 3 foot doors throughout, same thing as well, maneuverability. But from a design perspective, 5 foot halls, you could do case outs, even if it was like a 3 or 4 inch case out. You could bring down some headers to really create some different looks and feels throughout the space.
You bring up a good point with all that too, with the case outs and everything else, because I work with a lot of downsizers, and some of them are in wheelchairs as well. So like when you're able to maneuver throughout a house, especially with the 3 foot doors, it may not be like ADA compliant, what they call, but it's very ADA friendly. And even with the case outs, if you're on canes and stuff, you're not worried about the tripping hazard with the wider wall space.
Yeah, exactly. Hallways. And even like kids, right? I have 3 little ones. They're 3 boys under 5. Like you can imagine what my cabinets look like, what the corners of my walls look like. And so if we're making these larger spaces, the wear and tear that is going to occur on a house is going to be much less than if we have these really closed in spaces where, you're nicking corners all the time and that sort of thing.
Yeah, awesome. So walk us in. So we got 2 additional bedrooms.
Yeah, so from an efficiency perspective, right, the idea of a Jack and Jill being in between 2 secondary bedrooms is really a good way to go, right? It avoids having to add square footage in certain areas. And if done well, you can make the Jack and Jill really feel large and expansive and design it in a way that allows for max functionality. The first thing I want to mention is the size of the bedrooms, right? So these bedrooms are 14 by 12.
Which is massive when you look at today for a secondary bedroom.
Yeah, and you can feel it. We have 10-foot ceilings in here. It's just a nice space. And again, you don't have to have a 14 by 12 bedroom, but at the end of the day, something like a 13 by 12 is probably a good size. 14 by 12 is absolutely lovely. And you can really feel that when you walk into this space. Cody, here's your favorite thing again. We've got this beautiful use of wallpaper.
But again, all right, so explain the wallpaper. So we go light, we've had dark only one time. Now we got dark here in the secondary, in the Jack and Jill bathroom. Explain the thought process behind that.
Yeah, so again, it's sort of creating these defined spaces that tell a little bit of a different story, and they make you think a little bit. They are intricate enough, but not so overdone that they're kind of in your face. So again, natural colors, right? Even though we're adding deep saturation of color into this space, we're utilizing these natural wood tones in the white oak. The wallpaper itself is pulling the greens and the darker hues out of the charcoal hexagon shaped tiles on the floor here. It's pulling out the green and a little bit of the gray tone from the backsplash in the wall tile that we have here. Using an elongated vertical tile, it draws our eye upward, right? Which makes this space feel larger as well. And so again, there's nothing too crazy in this space. But at the end of the day, everything put together tells a story of cohesiveness, of quality, and intricacy.
Interesting. That's amazing thought when you put behind it, especially when you come over from the master suite where you had all gold fixtures. Now we're into the darker fixtures with a darker wall, but it flows. Again, like when we talk about homes, I like to talk to people when they're purchasing new construction homes, is how does it flow with what you're looking for and what your essentials are and what you need.
Correct.
So
I think the big takeaway, Cody, is that everybody is going to have their own style.
Oh yeah.
And yes, there's going to be things that are in style and out of style as far as what society deems to be in style and out of style. At the end of the day, if we're doing our job correctly, we're gaining a firm understanding of what that particular client's style is. And then we're executing in a way where whatever that style is, as you go into each room, you're going to feel that it's done well and cohesive. And if we're doing that, right, the outcome for the actual individual who's living in this space is going to be a positive one.
I think you're getting me slowly sold on the wallpaper.
I figured as we got into the second wallpaper space, you might feel that way. Again, 14 by 12 bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a really interesting thing about this. There's two things I want to point out. Is there's nothing that is overly done in this room. It's a well-designed space. It's large. There's two things that I love about the design of this room. The first is the windows. And so when we're building a house, we want to understand what the landscape, the natural landscape and the lot is giving us. And what it's giving us on this lot is an incredible view. And so we want to make sure that we don't have, divided light windows, that we don't have, the window kind of interrupted in any fashion. And so through the use of casement windows, right, we have to have ingress and egress to the outside for fire code and things of that nature. But the ability where, these windows being casements are full panes of glass, uninterrupted view, makes the room feel larger, but also brings in the indoors, outdoors, etc. And then you're able to open them and have them swing out, right? It's just a nice touch. It's well done. It's thoughtfully done. The second piece is the collaboration and the thoughtfulness around the curation of the furniture. I think this is so cool, but you can see this actual headboard is the exact distance, 14 feet, of the room. And it was designed specifically for this bedroom. And so you don't necessarily need to go crazy in terms of the wall finishes, the light fixtures, and the other things that you're incorporating, especially into secondary spaces. You can really bring things full circle with the furniture and finish out in the design of, things like headboards and furnitures and nightstands like that to really bring the space together.
That's absolutely amazing. That's complete. I see a lot of people, like when you look at secondary bedrooms on houses, and this is really me talking on this as we go upstairs, but a lot of your secondary bedrooms, when you look at sizes, a lot of them are like 10 by 12s. I've seen 9 by 11s. Those are the most common size. So when you see 12 by 14, I see a lot of master suites in a lot of your starter homes. That's typically about the average size of a master suite there.
Yeah, if I was to have a recommendation, and remember again, the bulk of our clientele, this is, either their final home, or, we're fortunate enough to have the opportunity to work with them on their second, third, or fourth custom home, right? So the ability to have larger spaces is certainly something that is well within their reach. So, a lot of times we will see these 14 by 12s. But at the end of the day, right, we also have a lot of clients that are working under strict budgets who want and deserve to have a custom home. And that brings me back to what we first talked about, which is, we have probably 50 to 60 new floor plans that we've designed and built for clients every single year. And what that produces is 60 to 70, 60, 70 different floor plans that I can showcase to new clients that are coming in and wanting to gain an idea of what they can build and if it's feasible and if we can hit their price point. And part of that conversation is maybe not a 12 by 14 bedroom, but it might be a 12 by 12, right? Adding additional square footage in secondary bedrooms is one of the lower cost things to do versus adding additional bathrooms, right? And that's where the Jack and Jills come into play, or adding additional cabinetry or beautiful professional grade appliances, right? Those are things that are really high ticket items that ratchet up the price of a custom home. But adding a little bit of functionality back into these secondary rooms by adding a foot here, a foot there, it really isn't a budget buster. And we can still have thoughtful sizing in those rooms.
When you talk about budget and everything else, and just to ask this, like, what is the most budget-friendly cost home that you have built yet in the past 2 years?
That's a good question. I would say finished out on a price per square foot basis, the most budget-friendly home that I've built this year or the past 2 years is about $240 a square foot finished out. Mm-hmm. And that's a home that is very nice. It's not something where you feel like you're walking into a stripped down home. The customers were able to specify and work with me on lot selection, the home placement on that lot, everything from the width and length of their driveway to the texture on their driveway, to having sliding glass doors and things like that. So, and then on the opposite side of the spectrum, we're building homes right now. We have one right now that's $1,006 a square foot.
Oh my goodness.
Which is pretty crazy.
Is it Shaq's house?
It is. It's Shaq Daddy's. Yeah.
Is Shaq Daddy?
Yeah.
I've been trying to get a hold of him. I've been wanting to represent him. He hasn't been returning my phone calls.
That's right. I'll talk to him and see if I can arrange something. But yeah, I mean, all these projects are really fun to work on, and it's just a matter of, upfront understanding what are the priorities for each client. And sometimes budget is more of a priority, and it's the priority, right? And everything else kind of falls second to that. Sometimes design is, sometimes functionality, sometimes it's a blend of all those things. So understanding that upfront allows me to guide our clients through the entire process so that at the end, when we hand them the keys, we've been able to execute on all of their objectives.
Mm-hmm. All right, so many people think that this is like a bedroom up here in a separate apartment, but y'all designed this something completely different, which it could be a bedroom with his own little suite up here.
Yeah.
Go ahead and explain this.
Yeah, so the idea behind this space was, making use of a space that wasn't overly huge, right? When I think about, game rooms and things like that, and making room for a landing for a stairwell and adding a bathroom and a media room up here, a lot of times I think, well, heck, we're gonna need a lot of space, right? And so, we have under 600 square feet in this second story here, and we have a full-fledged bar space, a very large and inviting game room, and then, on the front side of this here, it opens up to a really good-sized media room. The functional component to these spaces is what I really want to focus on. And so the idea is through using pocket doors, really high quality pocket doors, we're able to either segment the space, right? And you can do that by closing it off this way. And then all of a sudden now, when we're not utilizing this as a media room, let's say we had 60 people up here for a party, we just extended our game room space to now include the entire space as a whole.
Yeah, now you can watch the Longhorns lose.
Oh gosh.
So, no, I just want to highlight this.
I know.
Gigamags, got to throw it out there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
No, but that's the thing about it. Like when you look at spaces, it doesn't just stop in the media room. It doesn't just stop here. Let's talk with the outside.
Yeah. So again, being in Texas Hill Country and understanding what the lot is giving us here.
See, this is a large outdoor living space. Now I'm going to let this video just go live just for a second, just so you can hear. And what I would say, this is what makes Texas Hill Country just so unique. It's just the peace, the quiet. You can't hear anything but the views that come alongside with it.
Absolutely. And so, the fact that we just stopped here for a second to take all that in, that means that through thoughtful design, we achieved what we were trying to achieve. We wanted folks to come out to this specific space and experience just that.
Okay. Well, I want to hit one more place up here for this house specifically, because a lot of people don't understand the cost of landscaping. Okay, Tyler. Now, one thing that a lot of people, when they budget for the house, is what we don't remember, including myself, is how to budget for landscaping.
That's a really good point, Cody. So when I think about, a lot of folks who are building custom homes, they think, primarily about the house itself. How much does it cost to build the house? How are we going to design the house and things of that nature, which is extremely important. I liken landscaping towards the wheels on a car, right? You can have a beautiful car, and if it doesn't have the right wheels that aren't commiserate with the overall look and style of the home, it's not going to come together. And so, typically, right, we see, something like what we're looking at here is just very well thought out. And it can really extend from the simplicities of how wide is our flat work leading up to the entryway. A lot of times as just a baseline, I like to set up our clients with having flat work, at least on the initial approach into the front doors, to be as wide as the foyer opening, right?
Okay.
And you can see that here, right? There's a symmetry to it. The scale of it is appropriate. And it tells a story, right? It's inviting, it's open, it's not too narrow, and it's wide. And why, on this particular house, right, this width is really necessary given that the fact, the house is 94 feet wide, right? So understanding the scale of the house, scaling the landscaping to the house, and then, doing it in a way that is thoughtful for positive drainage. That's our number one concern. We always want to make sure that we're controlling drainage.
Yeah, and let's stop there real quick.
Yeah.
It's like my little bit of time I did over in the remodeling industry, a lot of people don't look at drainage or trying to keep the water away from the home, and how important it is out here, and especially in the hills and the hill country of Texas, because quickly soil can erode, which can lead to further issues. Can you go down to that a little bit on the drainage?
Yeah, this all starts before, honestly, if you engage with me before you actually purchase a lot, that's when all that magic happens, right? So what I like to do is, if we don't know, or if we don't have a big rain coming up, if there is one that's in the forecast, maybe 2 or 3 inches in an hour or two, and you're thinking about,
that's flood.
I know. Well, you want to see, right? Does it flood? And if it does, where does the water go? So asking neighbors about how water flows on a lot, if you're not able to see it in person. If you are, going out to the lot, seeing where the water's flowing, that gives us a really good idea of what's happening naturally, right? And then we're going to build the house thoughtfully and have the slab height be very thoughtful around positive drainage away from the house. And we don't want to fight water, right? That's a losing battle.
Yeah.
And then the finish out really is the landscaping, and through landscaping and utilizing fill dirt and utilizing things like French drains and just being really thoughtful, we're able to really control the way that water flows around the house. Keyword being around, not into the house. Then we move on to the aesthetic piece, right? So, having rocks and things like that are, sized appropriately, right? So when you think about washout, and if there's water, right, we want to make sure that the materials we're using are being thoughtful about the water that runs through them, right? We don't want all these beautiful rocks to be washed out. So different, sizes of rocks, different texture in rock, and then different coloring in rock to complement that of the house. So, typically what we'll see on an average house, kind of front yard, sort of fully rocked, mulched landscape beds, somewhere starting in the $30,000 range.
Mm-hmm.
And then you move into the back and maybe another 15,000 or so. So that's for a very nice, well thought out, refined landscape.
I think, people are going to whoa, that's a lot. But I think what people have to also see is not just a beautification, just making your house look good. It's also the functionality of the landscaping.
Absolutely. So again, it's one of those things where at the very least you want to get the street appeal, the curb appeal correct, right? And a big component of that is continuing to put thoughtful, higher quality materials in your landscape. And of course there is a cost associated with that, but in doing so, we provide landscaping in our contracts if folks want to. Mm-hmm. If people feel like they know a landscaper or have a relationship where they can do it on their own, and you can do that as well. The idea is that when you come to build with us, I will showcase to you different landscapes, different houses, different finish outs on houses, how much they cost, and then present those options so you can make an educated decision on where that fits into your plan.
Nice. So what we're going to do now, we're going to walk up, we're going to walk over to one of the ones that you're building.
Absolutely.
And also, as I kind of like look up over here, that's where that building is up there. Is that the start of phase 2?
Yeah, so that's the cluster mailbox area for phase 1. And as we continue here on December 1st, so we're really just over 3 weeks away from a pretty exciting time out here at the preserve, which is the breaking ground of phase 2. So I expect that we're going to be about 10 to 12 months on construction and continuing this road upward up to our amenity center, extending the main entrance and all the other roads that we're going to have here in the development, finishing out the main entrance and the signage that'll be on both sides of that entryway. It's really going to be exciting.
What are the views when you get up there cresting that hill?
They're phenomenal. I mean, it's the highest point of the property. We've got 200 acres here and 4 phases. That'll be phase 2 there, and it's just, there are sweeping views in both directions towards New Braunfels and then, looking out towards Bulverde and westward. So, the number of lots that we have out there, we're going to have almost 50 lots out there. They're all going to be acre to 2 acre lots. We'll start pre-selling those here in about 5 to 6 months. Once we are able to have the roads cut in enough to be able to identify lots, that's about the time we'll start doing that. So nice opportunity there to have your pick of the litter in terms of the lots.
And when you say when that's going to start coming out, you think, given all this is estimation. So
yeah, so we're going to break ground December 1st. I would anticipate, sometime May-ish.
Nice.
I think, that would be
perfect timing too.
Yeah, we didn't plan it that way, but yeah, we'll take credit for that.
Yeah. So we're going to be walking into, so let's talk just about this house we're going to walk into just a little bit. We got just a few more moments. As we're walking in, like when you're looking at build outs, this is not, and I think what a lot of people need to understand, this is not like a 3 to 4 month build out like you see on a track build home.
Yep, that's correct.
So like how long, what are the phases? How long does it typically take for the build? Type of construction materials that you utilize, energy efficiency. So as we walk into this house, let's talk about that a little bit.
That's a lot of questions, Cody. All right, I'm gonna remind me if I don't hit on one of them. So the first is really gonna be the timeline on a build. You really want to allocate something depending on the scale of the build. Obviously, the larger and more customized, the more time we have to spend with the architect. And the more time that it takes our trades to execute on things like, the feathered hand trowel finish on a wall and things like that, right? Like just something like that can take an extra week to 2 weeks versus a typical Monterey drag drywall. So, I would say on a home that is 3,500 or less square feet, or even 4,000 or less square feet, you're talking something around you want to really start planning 16 to 18 months in advance. And a lot of people hear that and they go, well, that's a long time. And when you think about it though, when you could be 3 months, just in architecture, right? And that's why you come to build with us, right? It's the idea that you can sit down with an architect, take all of these ideas and things that you dream of having in your house, have them drawn on paper in a thoughtful, functional way that is, fits your budget, right? And that takes a little bit of time, right? Between the first iteration of the interior floor plan and then refining that to the point where that's completed, and then going to the front exterior and refining that to where it's completed, and then the sides, rear, and roof line. That you want to kind of budget a good 3 to 4 months for that. Once we do that, right, we need to go and have design appointments and pick your interior finishes and things of that nature. So you could be another 3 months on that, and permitting and doing all the things that we need to do, closing on a construction loan before we actually break ground. So having a good 7-month timeline from the time that you start working with us to the time that we actually put a shovel in the ground is a good barometer. It's a good to go off of that. And then, 10 to 11 months on the build time is pretty much what we're seeing these days.
Now, I'm going to kind of veer off a little bit. And this is one of the original questions. You say construction loan. So this is not, and I know this, but this is really for the viewership out there. Getting approved for the loan, construction loan versus a completed construction loan.
Yes.
Explain that.
So the main difference is that when we think about production builders, right, you put a deposit down with a production builder, and then they're financing the build. Once the project is finished, you're going to go and get a 30-year or 15-year mortgage. And that's, it's a mortgage for your primary home or your secondary home. That's what we're used to, right? You put your down payment down when the house is completed. and any monies you've given towards the builder are contributed to that down payment typically, and then whatever the current market rate is at that time, you lock in your mortgage, and then the keys are handed over to you. With a construction loan, the builder isn't financing the construction, right? So you are going and you're going to a bank that offers a construction loan. Most every bank does offer a construction loan. Some of their programs are going to differ, right? So certain banks focus on VA loans and they have different products like a one-time close and a two-time close. We can go through that in a different video.
Yeah, we won't go through that one.
Or, there are certain banks that underwrite their own products, so they don't sell them on the secondary mortgage market. And that means, they don't have to be conforming loans, right? So there's things that they can do that they're more flexible on, whether, you have more assets in terms of income and things like that. So that's easy without getting into the weeds too much. But at a very basic level, when you get a construction loan, you're getting a loan for the amount of the build. You're closing on that loan before we put a shovel in the ground. And then us as a builder, we take 7 draws throughout the construction process. So we complete a major milestone of construction. A good example would be slab. And then we go to the bank and we request that particular draw.
Explain to the people why y'all do it, because I don't think a lot of people like, well, you're taking 7 draws out. Wouldn't that cost me more money?
Yep.
That's their initial thought.
Yeah, so the idea with a construction loan is, as a custom home builder, our focus is on building you a high quality home, right? Production home builders, even though you're not making these construction loan payments, they are factoring in their financing cost into your purchase price.
Because they still have to pay the builders.
They still
got to pay the pipe.
You're not getting off scot-free. And so a lot of people think that's the case, but they'll add up their cost to finance the construction, and let's call it 15, 20 grand over the construction build time, and that's baked into your purchase price, right?
Yeah.
The beauty of a builder not playing bank is there's an added layer of accountability, right? Because the bank is acting on your behalf. So when I as a custom home builder go to request a draw, right? Slabs completed, your bank, which has your interest and their interest at heart, sends out an inspector to inspect the work to ensure that it was done the way it's supposed to be done, right? Yep. At that point in time, they issue us the payment. We build, we rinse, repeat, 7 times, right?
So in that thing, it's a good way to put it, is like, it's there to protect the buyer is what
Correct.
It is.
Correct.
It's not there just to give money or take money away from the buyer.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about material use. So we see, I'm right here next to the Parade Homes. This is a home next to it. Now, if you notice the Parade Homes, it had metal roof as such. This one is going to be an architectural shingle that's on this roof. Again, as we talked about customizations, granted, Denver can customize, just about anything, or they can customize anything that you want. But what I like to talk to buyers about, like what really differentiates is not just a planning, because strategy beats everything every single time, but the type of materials that are used in customization homes versus, like, if you go some of the track built homes, you're going to have to find 2x4 exterior walls versus what you're going to find anywhere from 2x6 to 2x8. I think typically 2x6s, and then up in the rafters of what type of rafters they build. Are they stick built? Are they trusses being brought in? And that's really the difference. So if you explain just a little bit on the materials that y'all utilize, especially on the exterior part of the home, which is the bones to me.
Yeah, so whether it's 2x4, 2x6, 2x8 construction, a lot of that we actually leave to our customers, because there's certain things that we do. When you think about the actual shell of a home, the quality of the lumber, right? That's one. A lot of folks have gone into a house and you can see that, sometimes the lumber package that's arrived is pretty compromised, right? Certain boards that, it's not a full solid board. Well,
I won't call out companies.
So, that has a lot to do with project management, and sourcing and ensuring that your trades and suppliers are on the same page as you as a builder in terms of what you expect. And so, that's number one for us. It's the project management component. It's alignment of trades and the people that we're hiring. And these are long-term relationships, right? We don't just sub out a framer here and there. They're people we've been doing business with for sometimes 20 or 30 years. So, the idea is is high quality project management. Our builders at any given time right now, they have about 3 to 4 houses apiece. So, the workload they're very concerned with each particular project, and they have the time to do that, which is the way it's supposed to be. And then aligning themselves with high quality crews and trades and materials. So that's number one. Number two is, the use of materials, right? A stucco, versus a stone. I mean, these are all high quality materials. It's the way they're finished out. And this house, if you were to zoom in on the actual finish out right now, the stucco and the stone was just applied. We haven't even gone through yet and fine tuned it. And you can already see that we're off to a good start.
Yeah,
lines are
very
straight,
much so.
finish out is done well, texture and consistency, grout lines, and how the stone is laid.
Well,
is
even some
done
of the other
thoughtfully.
things I see just right off the bat is like, I mean, I'm a window person, is
Yep.
like one of the hardest things when you're putting stucco or any type of stone or brick with windows is having the gaps. Even after everything's cured, you have those gaps that are formed and seal them back up.
Yep.
So I don't see that here.
Yeah, and you shouldn't, right? I mean, you come to us for a high quality home. And high quality to me is first and foremost the build, the construction of the house. The quality of the finish, right? And I love to talk about this, is if you have a quartzite, right, that costs $5,000 for your countertops in your kitchen, or you have a quartzite that costs $20,000, the quality of that quartzite is no different, right? They're both quartzites. The only difference is the rarity of that specific quartzite. And so you're paying for rarity in that scenario. So
Right.
higher price material doesn't always mean higher quality.
Interesting. So I've never heard a builder put it that way, because typically they allude to higher price being just, I mean, it's going to be higher quality is what most salespeople will tell you.
Yeah, and it's not that they're incorrect, but that doesn't apply to everything, right? Yeah. Certainly, if we pay our framers more, if we pay our masons more, right? Typically, that's aligned with the level of quality that you get. Now, but when it comes to finish outs, right? Having like the quartzite example, it's a perfect example of how you can have a wide range of a price impact for a similar quality item.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what's interesting is like carpet.
Yep.
I was, I just got my whole bottom floor refloored, but I mean, I went with all porcelain, but carpet, I quickly found out that carpet is more expensive than porcelain flooring, or easily can be. It's like, it was like some carpets were over $15 a square foot, which I thought was crazy.
Again, that's a perfect example. And so the education component, by the way, Cody, is huge, right? When you're building a custom home, you want to make sure that the builder that you're building with is patient, thoughtful, and understanding about what you're trying to achieve, because you can automatically make the assumption that a carpet is less expensive. And if the custom builder you're working with truly isn't listening to the things that you're saying, it could be a missed opportunity. Maybe you don't want carpet, but you chose it because you thought that it was a lower cost item. Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity for a builder to present different similar priced items to you that maybe aren't carpet.
Yeah, that's where active listening comes into play. Love that.
Yes.
No, this is great. Last question, and we'll kind of head back to the office. Energy efficiency. This is a big deal in Texas now.
So, when it comes to energy efficiency, really the houses that we build are so energy efficient, even at a minimum level that we're using, that, we have to have fresh air intakes that are pumping fresh air into the house, because the pocket of the house is so sealed up that we can't have stagnant air in the house. So if that gives you any indication of just how airtight the houses are, any window that you're going to get these days is going to be a dual pane, argon filled window. That's going to help keep the heat out of the house, and it's also going to let the light filter in. Whether we're using an aluminum window, right, it's going to be thermally broken, meaning that the aluminum pane on the exterior, frame on the exterior, is not going to touch the interior, so you're not going to have that heat transference. We're always going to have spray foam insulation on the exterior walls. As a minimum. You can choose if you want to have
y'all
the
spray foam the exterior walls too?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So when you say the house is sealed tight, it is sealed tight.
It's sealed tight. And the reason for that is
my trash.
Gravity. You're good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Gravity takes over, right? So when we're talking about interior walls and you're putting bibs insulation in there, that bibs insulation over time is going to fall. It's going to sag, right? And you're nailing it in, right, to your walls. So penetrations with the nails, the sagging of that bibs insulation creates a pocket at the top of your walls where all of a sudden you don't have insulation after a little while. So by using spray foam insulation, it completes that complete seal and it sticks to the wall, right? So, 80% of our buyers are choosing spray foam in their attic area. I would recommend that all day long. I think that that's, creating a completely sealed envelope is incredibly important. If budget is more of a factor, going with a radiant heat barrier and blown-in cellulose insulation in the attic space is also a very good option. When radiant heat barrier came out, over a decade ago, it really changed the game in terms of baseline energy efficiency.
It did, but except for how some builders utilize it, like what they're calling radiant barriers, like Solar Board Tech Shield, which is not really true radiant barriers.
So all of this matters, right? And
it does.
And I think that just understanding what your builder's using, making sure that they have a well thought out, defined process that allows for every item being put in the house to be defined on paper. And then, if you have questions about certain materials and certain alternatives, your builder needs to be willing to explore those with you and answer those questions for you, present different alternatives at different price points. That's how you have, really, really impactful projects that work well for everybody.
Awesome. Well, let's head back to the office. I know
Excellent.
you got to get back and get actual work done.
No, it's all good, Cody. I appreciate your time.
All right, so as we head back to the office, last thing is like, how does someone get in touch?
So the first thing that you can do is go to our website, right? So go to grandendeavorhomes.com, and what's great about that is it's an incredible resource. We pour a ton into that. They can call us, our phone number's on there. You can email me, you can email our team. All that information is on the website. Photos of various builds from the past are on the website. A couple different floor plan options are on there. Featured projects are on that website as well. So, there's a ton of resources there that are a great starting point. And then from there, we take over with a quick phone call. The first thing that I do once you reach out to me is I'll schedule a phone call, a 30-minute to an hour phone call, just to get to know you and what you're trying to achieve on your project. And then we set up an additional phone call or an in-person meeting to walk through some homes, look at floor plans. If you own a lot or you're looking for a piece of land, we can do some site visits and things like that. And that's how we get everything started.
Now, here's one that I ask you, and you say straight up, realtors, how well do y'all work with realtors?
We work extremely well with realtors.
Do you recommend someone have a realtor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the realtors, especially realtors that work on custom home builds, they're going to know what builders to send you to. They're going to be able to do all of the vetting for you up front because they've worked with the sales folks of the builders. They've seen the construction quality. They've had previous builds and clients that have worked with these builders. So, there is nothing more, it's incredibly impactful to have that type of resource alongside of you, especially in the upfront component of vetting builders.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, again, thank you so much for having us out here. And this, again, guys, this is Tyler Reeve, Grand Endeavor Homes. Go check them out at grandendeavors.com, correct?
It's grandendeavorhomes.com.
Yeah, grandendeavorhomes.com. This is one of my recommended custom home builders. They're probably my top of the list. Due to the value that they bring, and you talk about custom home builds, and as I talk about them, value means like the most thing to me, guys. But also, guys, hey, please like, subscribe to these videos. I'm going to do a lot more of these style of videos, so you can kind of get your pick of the litter and see what each home builder does provide, whether it's going to be custom homes or whether they're going to be tract homes or semi-custom homes, which I'll go into a little bit later in videos. Hey, look forward to seeing you again. Like, subscribe, share this video with people looking for custom homes, and send me a shout out.